There we go. Hi, everyone. It's July 11th, 2024, and this is the weekly Backdrop Developer Meeting. We get together almost every week to talk about priorities for Backdrop CMS. We didn't get together last week, so we've got a lot to catch up on. But before we dive in, we're going to do some introductions. We've got a pretty good group of folks here today. My name is Nate Lampton. I'm a quick sketch on the internet, core committer and technical lead for the Backdrop project, and calling it from Oakland, California. We'll go around the room and let everybody introduce themselves. We'll start off with Martin, and then we'll go to Wes.
Hello, I'm Martin Price. I'm a Backdrop developer in Northeast England, United Kingdom. I mainly work around on Contrib. Yeah, that's all.
Thanks, Martin, Wes, and then Jen.
Hi, I'm Wes Rubalcaba. I'm in Chicagoland, currently in my parents' basement, and I do front-end work on a lot of front-end work on Core, and yeah.
Living the millennial life. Thanks, Wes. Jen, and then Justin.
Jen Lampton, joining from Oakland, California.
Jen, Justin, and then Joseph.
Justin Christopherson in Denver, Colorado. I help out with the infrastructure when I can.
Justin, Joseph, and then Eli.
I'm Joseph. I'm a developer from Las Vegas, Nevada, and I'm a core committer. And I've been working on changes to the web profiler module, so hopefully I'll be able to show off those off soon.
Great, thanks, Joseph. Eli, and then Andy.
Hi, my name is Eli Lissick. I'm a developer from San Diego, California.
Thanks, Eli, Andy, and then Savashri.
Hi, I'm Andy /Wilmot/Doc Wilmot. I'm in Cayman Islands and usually not here. Happy to be here today. I'm on leave just today. Good to see you guys.
Yeah, great to have you here, Andy. And Savashri. May not be at the computer right now. Sometimes it just listens. Okay. All right, well, let's get started then. All right, so first of all, some exciting news. We had the release of Backdrop 128.2. This is just a maintenance release, but it was, well, sorry, a maintenance and security release. So we have the security announcement here related to views. It's not a bad one. It's just XSS in admin interfaces, and it requires a lot of privileges to get to it. But big or small security issues get security releases. It was also nice though, because we did have a small regression in the admin bar setting, something that changed in 128.1, and so that gave us an opportunity to fix that little regression as well. So nice, tidy little release there with 128.2. Oh, you know something that was amazing about this release, though? I didn't do anything for it. I loved that. So thank you so much, Laren and Jen, Tim, Gregory, and others that all managed the release process. There was a lot of tag teaming that went along back and forth to get this release out. And yeah, I really love seeing our community and organization like operate. It's pretty fantastic to see everybody stepping into their roles and taking on different responsibilities. So let's see, so 128.2 came out. And then we have a lot of topics for today. We're gonna skip the contrib update for now. We may get to it at the end, but we've got a lot of topics for this week. I'm gonna stop sharing, and the first one we're gonna do is a topic that Wes is bringing to us relating to a dark mode capability in the admin theme. So take us away, Wes.
You're muted.
I thought he was just collecting himself to like get ready.
Yeah, I had to close my eyes. No, yeah. So basically what happened, so this is my local, and what I've done is converted the colors of the theme into CSS custom properties. I made a spreadsheet that I put in the ticket to where I did a regex and then got it into a spreadsheet so it could count the number of times colors occurred. And then from there, yeah, tried to make some color variables that could be nice and consistent, and then just flipping them when dark mode is on. So it hasn't been accessibility tested yet. At this point, I was just kind of clicking through all the pages and making sure nothing looked bad. I was more focused on dark mode than light mode. Somebody found an issue on light mode that I need to address. But yeah, if anyone wants dark mode now and would like to help test, you could find my MR on the ticket and just download or check out the repo and just pull the 7 theme out and just drop it into your repo. It's just going to override a lot of the CSS, and it adds 1 new file. Actually, I wonder. No, we don't have that much time. But yeah, I basically added 1 file for the CSS custom properties, and then went inside every single file and edited them. And I did have to override more CSS from core to make sure that the colors were flipping correctly on dark mode. So yeah, I think there's a lot of tweaking to be done. Just inverting the colors did not work as well as one might hope. And like I said, accessibility testing, check contrast everywhere, but yeah, it's solid, it seems. So that's pretty exciting. I'm in the middle of moving, so I might be a little slow to finish this up, but appreciate any feedback or help.
Does it just detect if it's dark mode on the system and?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Cool.
We could also, I thought about adding a little button for it or something. Just as another way to set it in case somebody doesn't want to change their OS to dark mode or whatever. But yeah, if you have your OS set to dark mode, it'll automatically pick it up.
Cool.
Yeah, I would think that the most logical or expected place would be as a theme setting, right? So just a setting under
yeah.
7, and maybe just it wouldn't be per user. But
Yeah.
I think that might be fine. If you want per user, then use the OS settings, but then have the ability to say all dark mode or all light mode, or use the
Yeah, maybe
browser.
set a default either way, but respect the OS setting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's a lot of places have it that they give you the option of light, dark, or system.
Yeah,
And then it'll respect
That's a good
the
thought.
system.
Yeah, it looks pretty not too bad. And of course we don't have color module support on 7, which is thankful, for a situation like this, because it's a lot simpler. Yeah, implementation wise looks really great. Yeah, I was gonna maybe be a little bit questioning about, like, is this effort like worthwhile? Because I see, like, in the issue, there's a lot of talking about Jin, and other themes that, I was kind of expecting it to be like, this is going to be a lot of work and that maybe we should be investing our time elsewhere. But now I'm looking at it and I see that my initial impression is not accurate, that it's just like, it's not a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a lot
and-
less than I expected.
And it seems like it's worth the effort, the small
Mhm.
amount of effort, to kind of dramatically increase the admin theme, rather than investing time in a new admin theme. So yeah, I think this is great. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I was hand wringing over having a good architecture for the custom properties, and it turns out because this is a very monochromatic theme, I don't really need that. Like, because usually I have multiple layers of variables, so it'll be like variables that are explicitly the color name, then variables by function like link color versus button color versus things like that. And that's where it can kind of, I want to make sure things are set up well. But I don't really think we need any of that. We can just deal with the straight up colors, and we have like 2 or 3 hues that kind of come into play. But yeah, I think we'll need to make some consistency updates on the colors because there's just a lot that are probably unnecessary. I hope Darius doesn't hear me, but Joseph did it for basis, and I live, so I think it'll be okay.
Yeah. Anybody have any thoughts about how this might affect contrib or any other kind of compatibility concerns?
It is possible that contrib built interfaces with like custom coding their colors in, like in admin CSS files. One place that we could look, like there's a bunch of places in core that we probably have custom admin CSS stuff, like on the layout template, drag and drop interface. But we could install some of the more complicated contrib modules and just do it a quick once over and just see what happens.
Yeah, I think optimally they have their own dark mode stuff that they do. It should fall into line with what 7's pretty much doing already.
Yeah.
They could use the same custom properties if they wanted, once this is out.
Yeah.
Or yeah, doing the light dark thing, which I used a couple times. I didn't use it as there's a new CSS thing where you can, if you have a color, you can say light dash dark and then parens and then put 2 values. And there were times where it's like, it's not worth having a CSS color variable for this, and it's different enough. I'm just gonna throw it in there.
Yeah.
So yeah,
But
I'm
I
happy to
imagine
help with that stuff.
this will probably work like the new homepage, where if there's like a theme that didn't support it, we would open an issue and be like, please support the new homepage grid. So we could do that here too, where you could open an issue and be like, please support dark mode. And that could be on a theme, or it could be on a module that adds its own admin CSS file. I imagine that it'll probably take some time to get everything up to date, but still, I think a huge improvement.
Yeah.
I mean, the work
okay.
there was like 3 hours, so that it's not going to be that much time. If someone just sits down and knocks it out, it's pretty easy. I think.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, it's a good call out though that we do, even in core, have a number of places where 7 is mostly isn't styling stuff. It's just letting it fall through to the default styles provided by the module. And the layout UI views maybe might require some extra effort. But
So
I kind of feel like the admin theme should actually style those pages rather than falling all the way through to the module styles. So
anything in core, I went that had that neat, like the CSS was just coming right through 7 and not doing anything. What I did was I copied the file. I made a similarly named but not the same name because I didn't want to completely overwrite it. And then I got rid of everything except colors and then overrode the colors. And then yeah, I'm loading it all globally because there's not enough CSS for it to be a performance concern.
yep. Yeah. That sounds like a great approach. Yeah, I love it. I love it.
I'm gonna go put it on my sites now.
Okay, that's great. All right, we got other topics for today. I lost the agenda. We had some posts to
Sorry,
the
before
forum.
you
Oh,
move
yeah.
on, I'm just curious. Are you meant to flush caches if you switch to this PR to get dark mode? Yes, actually, I should have just done it. Never mind.
Yeah, if you have CS aggregation on, you would need to. Otherwise, no. Once it's there, it's
Yeah,
It looks really good though, actually.
yeah,
really
that's
cool.
actually a point, isn't it? I don't know, maybe I'm getting greedy here. Isn't it possible to have that be toggleable somehow else. I guess maybe what I'm thinking of is like sometimes there's a body class or something like that, and then everything just goes off of that, I guess.
Right. Yeah, I was kind of, it could even be a contrib module of like flipping the 7 color mode on the UI, or it could just be in core. But yeah, either way, it's easy. Yeah, like you said, it could just be a class, because all it is, if you look at the CSS variables file that got added, is there's the default light color variables that are set, and then at the bottom it's a media query for prefers dark mode or whatever, and then it just sets those same colors to their inverse. But yeah, the palette wasn't really necessarily made to do that, so I need to go through and like certain grays are like a little warm or a little cool, and I'm just using them based on how light or dark they are. So like there's going to be need to be some simplification, and then exceptions can be made where a light or warm gray is a lot nicer. But yeah.
Great. Okay, I'll take back over here. And here's what Wes was just talking about. This is where the swapping happens, that it's just this prefers color scheme dark, and then it just redefines all the colors inverse of what they were before.
Yep. So on light mode, 100 is white and 0 is black, and then I just literally flip-flopped them.
Yeah.
The layout block add page isn't really converted yet. Is that part of the plan?
Oh, no, I just didn't get to it yet.
Okay.
I must not have clicked on that page. So when you go to place blocks, you're saying?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Good to know. This is why I need other people to look at it, so I know what I'm missing. Oh yeah, wow, that looks terrible.
And the flexible layouts.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, and if you want to test back and forth on browsers, actually, let me share real quick, Nate. Show you all how to test this easily. So using Chrome right now, but if you go, it's in pretty much every browser. It might be slightly different, but Chrome has, am I sharing? Yeah, okay. Chrome has rendering here, rendering tab, comes in the console. You have to click this kebab menu and find it, and then, oops. You can do color scheme forcing. So no emulation means let the system setting go through, or maybe there's also another browser setting somewhere. So you can handle it. This is also where you can simulate print style sheets, which is pretty cool if you ever need that. There's a lot of cool stuff in the rendering thing if you ever need it. But yeah, that's no good. We don't want that. We can't read anything. Oh well.
Hey everybody, sorry I got kicked out. Are we done showing dark mode stuff? Okay, great. Okay, so next item on the agenda that we've got here is related to CK Editor. This is issue number 6481. Share. So, kind of struggling a little bit to keep up to date with CK Editor. We tried to get this updated for Backup 128. We had a pull request to get it updated, but it didn't quite make it in time. And so we missed the 128 boat, but then we're like, oh, no problem. We'll just put it into a bug fix. Well, anyway, like 7 or 8 versions of CK Editor have come out since then. And a lot of problems have occurred. First of all, their build process changed slightly, but IndigoZilla solved that and made it so that we have a slight change to our build process. However, we also are aware that the build process is going to be changing again over the next several months. So this is kind of a stopgap measure while we prepare for the totally new build process. And then on top of that, we just have an issue where image handling has also broken a little bit in the update. So there's some errors happening now. So yeah, I think Indigo Zella's request here basically is like help. We need some assistance, like getting this past its kind of buggy state that it's in, so that we can get CKEditor up to date. With the amount of changes that are in here, though, I kind of worry about putting it into a bug fix release, because this isn't just like an update now, it's like an update plus like several changes that we're experiencing that are causing breaks. And so yeah, this might not be like 128.3 material. The other thing that Indigo Zella subtly sometimes and not so subtly other times it keeps reinforcing the tedious nature of trying to keep up with CKEditor and their cavalier attitude towards backwards compatibility is making it really difficult to continue working with the editor, at least from the core standpoint. I think from the contrib side, it's not quite as bad, but once they swap over to the new packaging system that they're planning on doing, or the loading system, that will affect everything, including contrib, because all plugins that are written right now will need to be reworked to work with the new loading mechanism. So yeah, CKEditor just turns out to be a really troublesome piece of software for our community. I floated it. I'm not quite sure if it was here. I think it was that, like, let's talk about this maybe at Backdrop Live. Indigo Zella has also been, of course, working on her contingency tiny MCE plugin and Backdrop module that is fully functional and compatible with Backdrop. So I don't know, just putting that out there that CKEditor is causing trouble again, and we're just trying to keep up with it. But yes, we could use some help here. I think Indigo is probably actually asking for my help specifically, so I'll take a look at this when I get a shot. Anybody want to have any comments or thoughts on that little diatribe?
Would we consider switching to the other editor? In core?
I think that's what we should talk about. Yeah. There's a huge, like lift there for our users, though, like switching from 4 to 5. Everybody seems like the whole reason we went from 4 to 5 was basically because, well, 4 was kind of great, and it worked well for us for a long time. And transitioning from 4 to 5 doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but it was a huge deal to do. And the fact that since we've moved to 5, we've had nothing but trouble, and it just continues to happen and happen and happen. I don't know. And I love that Indigo Zella has done this parallel track, because unlike CKEditor 4 to 5, where it was kind of an unknown, but it wasn't, because Drupal did it before us. But that was another motivating thing, is that, well, Drupal did it, so we could do it, and we could lift a bunch of the work that they'd done. But now Indigo Zella is running this whole parallel track where she already has built out the entire other module and already does all of the same things. And so she's now maintaining TinyMC and CKEditor at the same time, and she'll gladly tell you which one is more difficult to maintain over a long period of time. So
And Tiny MCE is quite good if it doesn't require a great deal of expertise. If you want to say, it's missing this little button, I'd like to add that in. You jump on the Tiny MCE website, find out what needs adding, and you can jump in and add it, and it's really quite easy to customize.
that hadn't even occurred to me. You can do that without a module, like you can just add on
Yeah,
a plugin. Huh? Wow, that's great.
Is that something timing wise would need to be backdrop 2? Or because there isn't any API that ties to your existing content, but there is that ties to your existing modules. And so if anyone had like a CK editor specific module, they would need a TinyMCE specific alternative.
Yeah, it
Just
would.
wondering.
Yeah, well, the way our patterns are going with everything, because CK Editor 4 is staying in until Backdrop 2. So people don't even need to move to 5. If we did adopt TinyMCE, then based on our current policies, we would end up with all 3 editors.
3
in
editors.
core. Yeah.
And we can make it so that CK Editor and CK Editor 5 are both there, but disabled by default. New installs get TinyMCE. Is that the goal? And then at CK Backdrop 2, we just like pull out all of CK Editor and like, sorry, no longer
Yep.
CK Editor. Interesting.
Yep, that would be the approach, correct.
If we don't like TinyMCE, we could throw in Aloha, and then we could throw out 3 editors with Backdrop 2 because I would just try them all.
Yeah, one thing that would be alarming about that approach, though, is that CK Editor 4 is already end of life, and so there's no new versions coming out for it. So we don't have to maintain the CK Editor 4 module. We just say it's unsupported and it's inherently kind of a security risk, and that's why you should get off of it. And so it puts warnings on the status report and stuff like that. CK Editor 5 will continue to get new versions, but we probably won't want to maintain it if it continues breaking as frequently as it is right now. So I don't quite know what we would do there. Like if we tried to continue maintaining it, then we would just be adding even more work on top of maintaining CK Editor 5. We would add on TinyMCE, and then we'd just be doing both.
Yeah.
Or
Do they have
we could say that's unsupported and insecure as well, and just do the same thing as we do for 4, and just be like, we're not updating it anymore.
What
but
if
then
we only did security updates for CK Editor 5? Would that decrease? Because everything would still break, but if we only had to fix it like twice a year instead of twice a month, or what have you.
But then we'd be in a position where the security release comes out, and then we haven't updated the last 6 versions of CK Editor, and it wouldn't work. It would take a long time, like weeks and months, to get our code working.
Behind on the security update, which is even worse than doing all the work more often.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, another thing we could do is we could add TinyMCE and leave that not enabled by default and have CK Editor still be default and maintain CK Editor. And then we could see what it's like to have TinyMCE as part of core before Backdrop 2. And then at Backdrop 2, we could switch it. So that way, like we only have to do the CK Editor updates urgently, but TinyMCE might not be that much work. I don't know. This doesn't sound like a good idea now that I'm saying it out loud.
Yeah.
Because we'd still have to update TinyMCE. It just, why not use it if it's there? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, what I'm kind of leaning towards, at least just, as we're talking about it now, is that the status quo is not bad. I mean, it's a lot of trouble maintaining CK Editor 5, but it'd be worse maintaining 3 editors in core. But 2 plus, but I think that kind of what might be our best long-term option would be like just encouraging the contrib module to exist for TinyMCE, and just be supporting it as saying like, we're very interested in, not using CK Editor 5 in Backdrop 2. And then let the contrib module exist, and in like even like mention it and encourage its adoption, with the expectation that long term it may become our editor in core.
Should we then, as an option, when Backdrop 2 comes out, we could say, as of Backdrop 2, we are no longer maintaining CK Editor 5, and then CK Editor 4 would come out, CK Editor 5 would get the warnings saying, you can run this if you want, but it's not maintained, it could be unsecure, and then at that point, we could have TinyMCE be that way. So we're supporting one version in Backdrop 1 and another version in Backdrop 2, but never the two at the same time. Would that be reasonable from maintenance perspective?
I didn't quite follow. Would CK Editor still be in Backdrop 2 at all?
CK Editor 5 would be in Backdrop 2, but it would have all of the same warnings that CK Editor 4 has now, so we wouldn't have to maintain it.
I'm not sure. You'd have to think about that. What the trade-offs would be and what kind of impact that would have on our users. I would be inclined to swap the positions and just put CK Editor 5 in contrib and just put TinyMCE in core and say, you know, if you want to keep using 5, when you upgrade to Backdrop 2, you need to install a contrib module.
But that increases the difficulty in moving from 1 to 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I feel like we don't want to do. We want to make that as painless as possible and let them decide when they want to move CK Editor on their own.
Yeah. I agree.
I don't know. We can discuss.
Yeah, I agree. It's just
It is something
challenging
we should start
problem.
thinking about. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we've got a couple more topics yet today, so let's just kind of keep on rolling through them. The next one, Martin, was actually the next 2 issues are your topics. Do you want to frame the problems for us?
Yeah, so at the moment we collect quite a bit of telemetry for core, and all of the infrastructure there and the functions of there support telemetry for contrib. And I understand it has been added for Civi CRM. That like B, that's added in it, that's installed in a different way that won't be reflected on the module usage counts. But when I asked the question, it turns out that there doesn't seem to be a kind of any kind of agreed process or principles for which contrib can use telemetry and what they can collect. For B, it's I feel, well, it would be good to understand how many are using each version. Now we've started doing releases and we've got version in B. It would be good to start collecting that. And also, it would be good to have the PHP version because a number of things do depend on that, such as the version of the testing framework that B uses, but also it will affect whether I can move to more modern lines of functioning. I think at the moment, because of the testing functionality, the testing suite that we use, we only really support from 7.4, but people using the command line are not likely to still be on 5.6 anyway. But it's about trying to understand what's going on. And the other thing, which again is collected on core, but it's important to know what the subset is how many people are using multi-site, because a lot of functions are built around supporting multi-site and working that. So it's important to know that that's still useful as I build the support. So that's an example for B. For Font Awesome, there's a number of different ways of there's now a few different ways of supporting delivering the library, and a few different library versions that are available. And it again, it would be good to know what version of the libraries people are using, or whether we still need to support the very oldest one of Font Awesome 4, or whether we can whether I can move to just supporting 5 and 6. But I think that the wider principle is how do contribs, what should be the principles? How do we decide what contrib can collect?
Yeah, I think this is largely a documentation issue because, like you say, the capability to collect telemetry on contrib modules is all in place and available. The kind of process that let's just outline the process here also for getting telemetry data into backdropcms.org from a module. So there's two hooks in a module: hook telemetry data info and hook telemetry, or hook telemetry info and hook telemetry data. And if those two hooks are implemented, then any module can start sending information to backdropcms.org. On the receiving side, backdropcms.org, you have to go to the individual project, edit it, and then there's a subtab for telemetry. And then you have to tell it on backdropcms.org what keys for telemetry information it should be expecting to receive. And if backdropcms.org receives telemetry data that it's not expecting to receive, it discards it. The reason that we have that checking on the receiving side is because we don't want any kind of random data being shoved into backdropcms.org and then being displayed. And more importantly, we don't want to ever collect anything that is like personal information or information about a person's server that could be compromising, like installation directory or something like that. And so we kind of want the backdropcms.org webmasters to audit the telemetry data to make sure that it's not going to cause any problems before we start displaying it on backdropcms.org. But the process, like everything is all there. The only thing that's not there is a documented method for requesting that telemetry data start being recorded on backdropcms.org and some kind of process for like getting that on there. But I can already see that like we actually have all of the mechanisms in place too, that it seems obvious to me, knowing our systems at least, that if you wanted to have telemetry data start being input, you put it into your module, make an issue for it, go ahead and merge it into the module, and then file an issue against backdropcms.org, the backdrop ops organization, and then backdropcms.org, and say, add my telemetry data. And then make that easy to audit so that somebody can come in and look at what telemetry data is being sent. And then we just need an administrator to then add the configuration over on backdropcms.org. Jen?
Where should we document that process for people who want their telemetry data? Should we do it in the maintainer section of the documentation site, maybe, where it's like the adopt and abandon project information is?
Oh yeah, where is that on? Is that on the doc site?
Yeah. Let's see.
Abandoned projects.
Is it?
It is. I had to search for it though. So it's under contributors guide. But it's weird. It's not in the navigation. Oh no, there it is. You have to click contribute backdrop add-ons, and then
Okay.
it's a sub item under there.
So maybe
Maintaining a project.
under maintaining a project.
Oh yeah, boy, there's a lot of sub navigation. It just keeps getting deeper as it goes. Yeah, I would make it a sub item under maintaining a project. Yep.
Okay. So file a pull request against your module to collect the telemetry data, and then open an issue against core
Against
asking it
backdropcms.org.
against backdropcms.org,
Mhm.
asking that somebody review the pull request and create and allow that data to be collected.
Mhm.
Okay. And then
Mhm.
who do we want to have on our end manage that? Like anyone who's a Backdrop CMS admin, do they need special access, or is it?
No, anybody that's a backdropcms.org admin. And
Okay.
as far as I remember, it's considered content, the configuration of telemetry, because it's
Okay.
a configuration on the project node.
Okay.
So it's literally just edit the piece of content. and
Edit the
then add-
node.
Edit the node. Yep.
Okay. Let's see. I'm just gonna edit one and see what it looks like. Telemetry. Yep. There you go. Okay. Fantastic. So what we need to know in that issue for backdropcms.org is the key and the data type.
Mhm.
So key
Yeah.
label and what kind of data we're collecting. Okay.
Yep. Like, is it a version because it has special version handling collection, or is it a string?
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah, great question though, Martin. We've had that for a long time. And it's funny, we talk about how useful telemetry has been for core constantly. And to open that up for Contrib, I think is, yeah, we're ready to make that jump, I think.
Yeah. What I'll have to do for B is probably to replicate the functions and then call them whenever, probably call them whenever it's using a function that goes to Bootstrap rather than on every function. But
Yeah.
that should be enough.
Yeah, that's what I also was going to say, is that because B is not a module, B doesn't have those hooks. It doesn't have hook telemetry
Yeah.
info and hook telemetry data, which also is a little bit concerning. That means that, you know, B won't show up in the status report as under the telemetry, revealing what information you're sending. So you'd also need some kind of way of surfacing that information that you're sending telemetry data.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple of plans that I would put it in B itself. So, but my thoughts was I would, one of the reasons why I'd only do it when B bootstrapped into Backdrop was I could check whether the telemetry module was enabled or not for the site that it was doing it on. But then I could put it in all of the places like the status report and the version report. That was my thinking, that it could be very clear there.
Yeah, that sounds great. Okay, we have another couple of topics. The first one's about T strings and the way that we want to format them. Martin, this is you posted it. Actually, looks like you started the Zulip thread too. Do you want to frame this one for us?
Yeah, I was porting a module and I noticed that the T strings were split into readable lines, which contrasted a lot with how we do it in Backdrop, where things are over T strings are just put on a very long line, which you have to scroll horizontally to read. And I thought, oh, that's interesting, and it seemed to work the same. I think the one caveat is you wouldn't want to change it for an existing string because it breaks the translation link. But it just makes the code a lot more readable, to my mind, if you can sort of follow that. And then Greg raised the question that there does there's a lot of suggestion that raising the line limit for code to 120 could be a good thing, and I think there is an issue. Greg pointed to an issue in Drupal, which is about doing that. So there's it kind of jumped into that, but it's whether we not necessarily saying you must do this, but whether we should give whether we should allow that or not.
Yeah, so one thing about I see the examples here in Zulip. Hang on, I'm going to share again. Okay, so here's some examples in Zulip of that Martin had made. So here's the current way where it's like, you know, we've got two full sentences here, and it just keeps going all on one line. And then two of the proposed options, one with 80 and one with 100 characters wrap. So I would I'd say that the assumption that it doesn't matter as far as the functionality is actually not totally true. Because a translator gets what we pass into T. And so when we pass a string into T like this, what a translator gets is this, including a bunch of spaces in here. And much to, I think, users or developers' surprise would be if this line of code were indented another 2 spaces like this, you've now broken the translation because you've added extra spaces in here inside of this string. And also new lines do also matter, that this translation is different than this translation. So because all characters matter inside of the quotes, including spaces and new lines. And so if you were to do something like this, like rewrap it, you know, this is also a different translation than what it was before because we've changed it. So I think you're not wrong that it would be possible to format them. Like if you were doing this, for example, and as long as you were consistent and didn't rewrap it, then it wouldn't be that problematic having a new line, because when this is output in HTML, a new line doesn't matter and it renders as a space. So the output is the same regardless of how many spaces you have in it, like from a HTML output standpoint. But from a translator standpoint and the invalidation of the strings, every space and every new line matters. So I kind of feel like that's so many rules around when you could use new lines and when you couldn't, that it'd be much safer for us to just say no new lines. It should just always be together.
Could we do something like converting all white space characters to a single space? Like replace \s plus space.
So not easily, because there's actually this great example here in core where new lines are used inside of translations intentionally, like for emails. And so in some places, new lines do actually matter inside of the translation system. So the strings that are actually used by core are actually, here it is, they look like this. Or at least this is the way it is in Drupal. I'm not sure if we have done the same thing where they still followed the one line rule, but they put new lines into the translation string. But this and this are the same thing, where if you actually put new lines into it in double quotes, then that is the same thing as doing / new line breaks. inside of a translated string. So, yeah.
Okay.
What I do think is a good suggestion, like Kian Maluno posted this, that sometimes you want to, like, breaking stuff up into multiple strings can be beneficial, like both from a
Mhm.
readability standpoint, as long as each sentence makes sense by
Mm,
itself. Because when you separate sentences, a translator now has to translate them independently without knowing what the previous sentence was or what sentence comes after it. And if you're doing something like a help block, where it's a whole paragraph and the sentence or the paragraph is explaining a concept altogether holistically, the whole paragraph being together is useful from a translation perspective.
yeah. Mm.
There's another good suggestion in here. I can't quite remember where it was, but oh, here we go. That I'm usually a big fan of this. So this is a really good example where I'm going to put this into a text editor, just get a little bigger. Where if you've got multiple paragraphs, like a paragraph is usually enough context for a translation string. It's also usually long enough. And you could translate with markup inside of it, but I think this is the preferred better approach, where translate one paragraph at a time and keep the markup outside of each paragraph. I think from a, like, sending useful information to translators without superfluous markup in them, this is like a great compromise where you split up the string from a maintenance standpoint. It's more readable. And if you need to change one of these paragraphs, you can change one paragraph without changing the translation strings for the other subsequent paragraphs. And so this results in less frequent breaking of your updated strings. And it also sends enough context to the translators, one paragraph at a time.
Mm.
So I don't know.
Okay.
My kind of general thought on that is, like, our current policies are there for a reason. And we probably do need to continue doing one line, like no line breaks inside of T by policy. And if you're porting modules that did include new lines inside of T, then that is incorrect.
Mhm.
Yeah, the number of ways in which T is incorrectly used is, I mean, it's rampant. It's everywhere. Less so within core, but
Yeah.
you know, the general policy of just wrap it in T is oversimplifying the complexity of internationalization.
Yeah. One thing I did find a bit odd in when I was testing this out and in the locale module is the locale module doesn't give you any indication where it is in the where it actually appears on screen or what module it appears on, which I found was quite confusing, but that's probably something for another day. But no, it's really helpful to understand. I hadn't thought about how the nesting might change if all you needed to do was add a new if condition and suddenly it breaks. Suddenly it breaks it. So it probably does. It's helpful to understand that context as well. So thank you.
All right. Well, yeah, of course, Martin. Thanks for bringing up the topic. We're out of time for today. We didn't get through the whole agenda, but we'll just kind of put a pin in those and come back next week talking about D2B module. That was one of the items. Jen posted in the chat here that she has already drafted requesting telemetry data over to the docs site. So thank you very much for that. Anything else, Jen? Okay. I guess next week we'll do a 3-week wrap up of all of the contrib updates since it'll be that long since we last did one. So, all right. Well, thank you everybody for joining. This was a lot of fun today. And
Also,
yeah.
Nate and I aren't going to be here next week.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So we'll reach out to Tim on Zulip and make sure he's able to do the reporting.
Also, one more thing, we're gonna try to implement our new schedule for the weekly meetings. And so 2 weeks from now, we are going to reverse the order of the meetings where this meeting will come before the community meeting,
2 hours earlier.
2 hours earlier. Yep. And
And the
so those,
community meeting will be at the same time. So we're reversing the order, but also this meeting is jumping an
Yeah,
hour
so-
earlier.
yeah, so the community meeting is staying the same, and we're just putting this one before the community meeting.
Will Nate still be chairing that meeting?
Yes. Yep.
But we are hoping that that will enable other core committers to be able to participate more in those meetings and hopefully lead some of them as well.
Yeah, I thought that was the whole aim of
Yeah.
that. It'd be helpful to see.
First, we'd like them to attend.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks again, everybody. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks. So thank you so much.